A little bit about what makes up context, the elements of context. So first off, context, one way to think about it is the original place and time in which the communication originated. So where were you when you wrote that communication? What time of the day was it? What was going through your mind at the time? Were you in your office? Were you on break? Were you on your phone, etc.? So that's one element of context, because context means the place in which something belongs, more or less. Secondly, it also looks at the medium and modality in which the document appeared. Now, what I mean by that is, like, was this electronic? Was this an email? Was this a text message or an instant message? Perhaps this was a hard copy. Maybe it was a memo that you wrote. Maybe it was a proposal that you wrote and printed out. Or maybe it was an audio or visual type of document, such as the one I'm doing right now, where you recorded something or you put together a PowerPoint. So that's all the medium. And the modality is, again, just the way that the information was delivered. Was it delivered through a computer? Was it delivered through a smartphone, etc.? So that's the medium and modality in which you originally created this document. Another element of context is the corporate culture into which the communication was sent. So, who are you sending it to? What was your relationship with that person? Where was that person physically located at the time? What company does that person work for? And what are some of the values of that company? What is the purpose of that company? What are some of the things that that company tries to accomplish? What type of business does that company do, etc.? And also the corporate culture out of which you communicated. So, what does your company believe? What is their approach to communication? What is their policies? What are their values? So those are some elements of context. Moving on. I apologize because I don't think you can see all of this information. So what you can see on the top, or what you can't see on the top, is it says choices affected by context considerations. The most important thing you can remember in professional technical writing is that professional writing is a series of rhetorical choices that you have to make depending upon the audience you're writing to, the purpose you're trying to accomplish, and again, the context in which you're communicating out of. So, specifically with context, here are some choices that affect that. So, first off, what is your relationship to the reader? Is this reader a subordinate of you, meaning is this reader somebody who works for you? Or is this reader somebody who's your supervisor, for example? And also, how well do you know this person? Do you have a pretty casual relationship, or is it somewhat formal and stilted a little bit? That's something to be considering. You also need to be thinking about the story that led to the need for the message in the first place. What happened that called for you to write this message? Was there some kind of miscommunication? Was there some kind of problem? Is this simply a proposal where you're trying to get your boss to do something for you? What inspired this in the first place? That's an element of context. Also, be thinking about what is the business environment out of which this was coming. Again, that's that corporate culture, that's that viewpoint, the value system of the company. Think about all of those elements. Think about what matters to this company and how this company feels about communication. Think also about recent or current events surrounding the message. Is this the first message in a series of messages, or is it in the middle of a series of messages, or the last in the series of messages? Is one of your purposes to end the series of messages that have been occurring? Think also of cultural differences. This is not necessarily just ethnicity or gender or sexual orientation, but it's everything. It's people who have different viewpoints on the world than you do. It's people who have different work ethics and different mindsets. Maybe they're from a different generation. Maybe you have to communicate to somebody who's in Generation X and you're a millennial. Those are all cultural differences that affect the choices that that context affects. And then the preferred medium. This again is like, is this email? Is this a hard copy? Is this an instant message? Is this a text message, etc.? So why is context important? Well, of the three rhetorical elements, audience, purpose, and context, context is the least considered. So if you think about the place and time and the mindset in which someone's going to read your information, that's going to differentiate yourself from a lot of people who aren't thinking about these things, especially when it comes to things like job applications or when you're trying to impress somebody. If you can write into the context, in other words, thinking about, well, this person is probably going to be very busy, or this person is probably going to be very overwhelmed, so I'm going to make the choice to use a lot of white space, whatever it might be, those are context considerations. And they demonstrate flexibility and versatility, and they also demonstrate a focus on other people and all of the situations and all of the factors that affect the way that they're going to read your information. Understanding context is also a way to demonstrate professionalism because tact means knowing how to behave in business settings. And so you have to understand exactly what the context is. Is this a formal business meeting? Is this an informal business meeting? Is this a brainstorming session? Is this a formal proposal? Whatever. Think about your context and think about what behavior is going to be expected of you in that context, especially when you're doing like visual presentations or oral presentations. It also respects your audience's viewpoints and state of mind. You're thinking about what's going through their mind at this time. Are they stressed? Are they worried? Are they anxious? Are they somewhat relaxed? And how can my communication speak into that so that the anxiety won't be a distraction, the stress won't be a distraction? They also anticipate. One of the best things you can do as a professional writer is anticipate the needs of your audience and anticipate how the place and time in which they're reading your information is going to affect whether they're going to accept your idea or not. It also demonstrates proactive thinking, meaning you solve problems before they occur. There could be several context problems that you need to be thinking about as you're communicating this and as you're creating the communication. That's about all we have for context. Stand by for some information about wrapping up the audience purpose and context section of the class. Bye-bye.